Hey guys, what is happening YouTube? And thank you guys for tuning in. It's Tuesday, so you guys know what's up. It's Side Hustle Tuesdays, and we are back with episode 64 of our Side Hustling series. I really like today's story, and the story that I have to share with you guys. It's about a guy who first started a side hustle with a subscription box model. His product selection was creative, and his marketing plan was even more unique. And that's what this series of Side Hustle Tuesdays is all about. Well, I hope that you guys find these stories in this series entertaining and fun. I also want you to really think about these businesses, and I'd love if it inspired an idea within you after hearing these stories. I guess what I'm getting at is I keep hearing about people doing the same Shopify dropshipping, starting t-shirt brands, selling parachute hammocks on Amazon, etc., etc., etc. And while there's nothing wrong with that, there's way too many people doing that stuff, and there's tons of competition. I also think people are limiting themselves when they only look at these 3 or 4 hustles that they see every YouTuber and online entrepreneur talking about. When you look back or go back and watch previous side hustling episodes, one thing you'll find is most of these businesses are pretty creative. And even if they are run-of-the-mill businesses like dropshipping or affiliate marketing, people tend to find interesting products or to go about them in an interesting way. And I think that's why most of these businesses have been successful. For example, we've had someone who did a blog about fish tanks, someone who made customized candy hearts, someone who made a baseball sweater, a gutter punk lesbian who taught financial literacy to her peers, really unique business ideas. And even if we look at the example of the guy who started the fish tank affiliate site, well, affiliate marketing is a common thing. He didn't run out and start an Amazon spec comparison site comparing Shark vacuums to Dyson vacuums or NutriBullets to NutriNinjas. Why that's funny for those of you guys who aren't into affiliate marketing or online marketing is because those are the types of things that people first attempt to do when they're getting into it, but very few people actually make money doing. Something more unique like a fish tank blog potentially can make money though. I guess my point is the more creative and the more outside of the box you get, the less competition you'll have and the more unique your selling proposition is to your potential customers. I also want to make a big push on encouraging people to source stuff locally, or at least within the States, as opposed to the knee-jerk reaction of running to Alibaba because everything has to be sourced from China. And that's what today's side hustler did. He found a unique product that he could source domestically. He found a way to make it even more unique, which I'll cover in the story. And lastly, he found a unique way to market it and sell it, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Mark Beauregard is the side hustler featured in today's story. And before we get into this, I just want to talk about one element of today's side hustle story that was really creative in terms of marketing. So there's an app called the Nextdoor app. It's a social media app that connects people, like you might guess, who are next door or nearby to each other. And while it's not intended to be an e-commerce or even really a selling app like an OfferUp or a Let's Go or a Craigslist, Mark's creative use of the site in that fashion is in large part what springboarded his business. So Mark is a musician living in San Francisco, or he was a musician living in San Francisco before he started this side hustle. And he's always had an interest in coffee and has been passionate about coffee. And he's always also had an interest in wanting to learn how to roast his own coffee. So he decided he needed to learn how to roast coffee immediately. And he did something that I recommend to a lot of people and something that I thought was really smart. He went and tried to get a job doing this. He went and tried to get a job roasting coffee. It makes a lot of sense, right? You want to start a social media management company, go work for one. See how they do things. See how they do their billing. See what types of customers they have. It's a great way to learn the business so that you can later branch into it on your own. And it's great in that not only are you getting your training for free, but you're even getting paid for it. Well, anyhow, that's what Mark did. However, after visiting some coffee shops and roasters who had shops, he kept hearing things like, you need to work as a barista for a few years before you can start roasting. Or one particular roaster offered to hire him, but was only going to let him pack bags, not actually roast the coffee beans. And he actually wanted to get into roasting. So Mark knew he had to go this alone, and seeing as how he didn't have experience or money for a fancy roasting factory downtown, he decided to start small and started a side hustle and his own personal coffee roasting subscription box. Things started off rough for Mark. He didn't really know what he was doing. There was a lot of smoke, a minor kitchen fire or two, and he even wound up getting evicted from his apartment over this, but that did not stop him. He continued what he was doing and finally got the hang of roasting, and what started off as buying small 10-pound bags of raw coffee greens and roasting them in his bedroom quickly expanded into something much larger. He found a local roaster who would let him rent space by the hour to do his own roasting, and went from buying his 10-pound bags to buying huge 150-pound bags that he would have to rent a van to bring over to the roasting factory. He started his subscription business. He also locked down a couple wholesale accounts and also some retail customers, and he had some early success. However, his real break came when he found a social media app called Nextdoor. It's not like Facebook or Instagram in a sense where it's a huge network of people all over the world. It's a more intimate platform. So it's meant to connect you with your neighbors, you with people down the street, in a neighborhood, etc. Mark lives in San Francisco, so obviously a very densely populated area, and because of that, he had over 8,000 connections on the app. Well, the app isn't intended to be used like a sales app, like an OfferUp. He put up a neighborly post about how he roasts his own coffee and sells it. He titled his ad, "Extra Fresh Coffee I Roasted." And he made the point to make the post not too salesy, and by the next week he had over $1,400 in coffee sales all from this app. He also wound up meeting a lot of his neighbors, which was cool as well. People liked the coffee, they came back for more, they ordered online, they joined his subscription box. I think Mark's marketing tactic worked out for a couple reasons. First, we have something in common with our neighbors. We are from the same place. We have a built-in connection. Ever notice how when you're on vacation, say even in like a foreign country, and you meet another person from your city or even your state, all of a sudden you're their best friend because you're from the same place. You have something in common. You have this built-in connection. So yeah, Mark's ad had that same sort of thing going on, right? It was, hey, my local neighbor who roasts coffee. I also think it's more fun when there's a story behind an item or a purchase. Nobody really brags about or encourages friends to try some product they got at the grocery store or some product they bought at Target. But, when you pick something up at a cute little roadside stand, in the country while driving back from the beach or something like that, there's more of an intimate feel. There's more of a story. There's a lot of things I pick up. In the summer times, I go up to the beaches in Southwest Michigan, and there's a lot of little fruit stands and things on the side of the road. And, I'll pick up a jar of honey or a thing of jam. And, every time someone comes over to my house, it's like, oh, you got to try this. I picked it up in, Berrien County. And I think when items have a little bit more of that hand craftsmanship, when they come from somebody there's just more of a connection, and it's something you want to share. And in part, that's kind of what Mark's ad had going for it as well, and that's also kind of helped spur sales. It almost had kind of a social media sharing effect going on. Anyhow, the business is going well and continuing to grow. Mark is planning on moving the business to a smaller city just north of San Diego in Southern California called Encinitas. It's a small little surfing community. He plans to surf in the mornings, roast coffee in the afternoons, and continue what he's doing, handling wholesale accounts, doing some resale selling, running a subscription box. For now, it's just Mark. However, he said he may wind up hiring an employee or two down the road to do the day-to-day stuff. But Mark has grown his small little bedroom coffee roasting business into something much larger, something that he enjoys, and something that supports him as well as the lifestyle that he wants to live. So again, there's a couple things I really liked about this story. First, he's doing something a little more unique. Rather than buying multi-tools from Alibaba, he's selling coffee. So it's just kind of neat. He's sourcing a product domestically, he's doing something to it, roasting it, and then selling it. But more importantly, he's finding really creative and outside-the-box ways to do his marketing, which was through this Nextdoor app tool that we mentioned. So let's talk about that a little bit. So Nextdoor, which is available on the Android and iPhone app stores, is a hyper-local social media site, as in down to your neighborhood and your city. I just signed up for an account just a few minutes ago before making this video to try it out. And it seems like it's mainly things posted about neighborhood news, neighborhood issues. When I browse my area, there's somebody looking for a neighborhood bar. The second listing is somebody looking for a gynecologist recommendation. And I think the next couple were about lost dogs. I did see a couple people selling an old swing set or something, but for the most part, it's not a selling app. But Mark found a creative way to turn it into a selling app, and it actually kind of springboarded this coffee business of his. Mark found a creative way to sell to his neighbors without being too salesy. And I imagine if he kept doing this every week, week after week after week, the novelty would probably wear off and people would realize what he was doing. But by doing it initially, it stirred up business. It made people want to support him, and it really helped springboard his business. It makes you wonder what other local platforms are out there and what other types of businesses could you promote doing this. One idea that came to mind is something that my business partner mentioned to me a few weeks ago. So his neighborhood has one of these like neighborhood message board type websites where people will sell household items, recommend contractors, etc. And actually, it was just a couple weeks ago he mentioned to me, he said somebody posted that they would pick up dog poop, and within about a week, they had well over 20. I think the other day he told me it was up to 50 people responding saying, hey, can you contact me? Hey, what do you charge, etc. So there definitely seems to be some opportunities that can be stirred up on these types of platforms. And also just in terms of like finding creative ways to market. I have a story from a few years back that probably isn't as relevant today, but still highlights a creative use of resources and kind of thinking outside the box. So years ago, I used to sell these beanbag or cornhole toss games that I made myself. You know, you guys know the ones. You see them at backyard barbecues and at bars where you toss the bags into the hole on the board. I would cut out the wood myself, put on the hinges, attach the legs. I'd either stain them or do custom paint jobs on them, the whole 9 yards. I taught myself how to sew, and I would actually also go buy animal feed corn from Farm and Fleet, as well as duck cloth from Joann Fabrics, and I taught myself to sew, and would sew my own bags as well. So this is before the internet was what it is today. So, you know, local classifieds in local newspapers were still a thing. Anyhow, as a broke kid, I really didn't have the money or want to risk the money paying $40 for an ad. However, I saw that they allowed free ads for items under $25. I decided to sell the bags, not the boards, because the bags I would charge $25 for. And yeah, I wound up getting a lot of calls from people who had lost their bean bags, whose bean bags had gotten eaten up over the winter by either squirrels or mice in the garage. But I also got calls from people saying, hey, I saw your ad for bags. You don't happen to also sell the boards as well, do you? Well, yes, actually I do. They're $80 or, $150 for a custom set. So I got free advertising by selling one component of these bag and board sets that I was selling. So the lesson there is get creative and think outside the box. Anyhow, guys, I thought today's story was both unique and creative, and I really enjoyed it for those reasons. I also really wanted to highlight the point about being creative and thinking outside of the box in terms of product selection, as well as marketing and advertising. As you see, this strategy paid off for Mark. Anyhow, guys, that's today's side hustle story. Until next time, this is Rules for Rebels, signing off.